Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wreck your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. You're listening to our latest episode for the week of January 13th, 2025. Today, I'm joined by D.C. correspondent Danielle Battaglia. This past week has been a lot of ceremonial things. The start of the North Carolina General Assembly's long session happened on Wednesday with the swearing in. Governor Josh Stein is going to have a much pared down inauguration that by the time you listen to this would have already happened. We're recording this on Friday afternoon. The big outside at the Capitol plan and the block party and the open house at the mansion, all of that has changed because of the weather here and the storm that will probably have arrived unless something majorly changed by the time everyone's listening to this to start your week. So with the start of the legislative session, we had, of course, the new speaker is Destin Hall, and we had the three former speakers, Brubaker, Tim Moore, who was just here a couple weeks ago, is now in D.C., and former speaker, now U.S. Senator Tom Tillis, was also on hand for the ceremony, which is our perfect segue to lead into talking with Danielle about now Congress member Moore, the other new people in the North Carolina delegation. Let's just get it rolling with who had new jobs starting this month, Danielle.
So we have 5 new members. I keep saying it's like naming the 7 dwarfs. You always forget one, but Representative Addison McDowell, Pat Harrigan, Tim Moore. I almost said Richard Hudson, who's been there forever. Who did I miss? Mark Harris, Tim Moore, Addison McDowell, and Brad Knott are the 5 new ones. All of them are Republicans. They were able to come in through redistricting. So once again, the General Assembly, they've redrawn our maps to give Republicans a favorable outcome in the election, and favorable they did. So we've got 5 new members. It changed our congressional delegation from a 7-7 split with 7 Republicans and 7 Democrats representing the state to 10 Republicans and 4 Democrats representing the state. So kind of a big difference going on now.
So they're all men, they're all Republican, they're all white. Doesn't mean they all have the same worldview or background. Tim Moore, obviously, the longest House Speaker here. He's had obviously extensive experience in state government and not so much with some of the others. So who's new to government? Really?
Yeah. So Pat Harrigan, he was a Green Beret. He's a gun manufacturer. He's brand new to politics. He went one time against Jeff Jackson in the election and lost to Jeff. Jeff Jackson's now our Attorney General. And this time he ran in the open seat left by Representative Patrick McHenry. So he was able to secure that seat, and he's now in. Addison McDowell, brand new. He was a Blue Cross Blue Shield lobbyist. No, actually, I shouldn't say he has no other political experience. He has worked under other politicians before, but not in his own office before. And then Brad Knott has a lot of political clout and connections, but also brand new to politics. Mark Harris also would be brand new to politics. He has been in the political sphere. He's known for his scandal of 2019 or 2017, one of those 20-something years, where his staff was accused of ballot harvesting to win his election. The election ended up being thrown out. That's how we got Dan Bishop. Dan Bishop also ran for Attorney General, but lost, and now Mark Harris is back.
How do you think they differ in, Addison, I think he was friends with Trump's son, as far as their political connections, and Harrigan initially, when he thought he was running against Moore, didn't, have have nice things to say about him. How did they get along with each other with the freshmen? And then where are their changes with really what their backgrounds are?
It seems like they're all coalescing like around each other, which is kind of necessary when you're a delegation of 14 members. You see that also with the Democrats and the Republicans. They have to work together. And there's so few of them in our state, which actually, if you talk to other regional reporters, they'll say, you have so many, but 14 is not that many. So they kind of have to get along. I don't know that Moore and Harrigan have fully healed that tension, but they are giving a good front that they have so far. And that was, I mean, Harrigan came out full frontal, like, I believe he called him a corrupt politician the second that Moore said he was running against him. And and I don't think we've explained, Harrigan ended up running in a different district than Moore not long after. And so they ended up actually kind of running together despite how they started. So I think they are working together now. All 5 of them have been hanging out. I've seen photos of them all together and with the rest of the delegation. So I think they're trying to work together to do what they need to do for North Carolina.
What about their other Republicans? And then now that there are fewer Democrats, so how are Ross and Foushee and who else am I thinking of on the end?
Yeah, and Don Davis. Did you say Don Davis?
No, I hadn't yet. So how is that going to change now that it's not even Steven anymore and Republicans have more power?
Well, for the Democrats in general, we now have both the House and the Senate, both are Republican majorities. And so their power is definitely diluted. But the interesting thing with both chambers is that the majority has such a slim majority. That was a very awkward sentence. That we've seen the Freedom Caucus all through the last session use that slim majority to say, I don't like what Speaker name the speaker because it depends on the day. But now Speaker Johnson is doing, so let's work with Democrats to get what we want. And they kind of use that against the speaker to kind of try to change things. Now, what's interesting about that is when we saw the House Speaker vote on Friday, they tried to pull that this time, but they accidentally almost elected Hakeem Jeffries. And so Chip Roy was one of those people who was like, I'm not going to vote for Johnson. And at the last second, he had to say, I'm voting for Johnson, or he would have elected Hakeem Jeffries to be House Speaker. And Hakeem Jeffries is the House Minority Leader. So they have to be careful when they're doing this stuff to make sure their math's right, to make sure they're not creating policy that they're actually against or electing leadership that they don't want. But they do use it to their advantage.
What are you hearing from the 4 Democrats as far as how they're kind of looking into this year with the change in power?
I actually haven't gotten a chance to get up with them yet, so I'm waiting to meet with them. I know I'm supposed to have a meeting with Deborah Ross's staff next week, and so I'm looking forward to those conversations. But I know going into it in the last session, they were really curious how this was going to play out for them coming into this new session with President Trump taking office and the majorities in the 2 chambers.
It's always fun to see the dynamics on the floor, like with the opening session, Moore and Tillis were seated next to each other, and you spend a lot of time talking to a person, you can read their facial expressions more, for years and everything, seeing like them joking around some. And then when Moore went up after now Speaker Hall, well, I think Moore gave him the gavel last month, but like once it the official vote and everything and just how they interact. What did you see? Anything with North Carolinians or others that stood out to you with seeing what was going on with that first day?
Yeah, I think I sent you a message on this, but the thing that really was catching my attention. So when Representative Wiley Nickel was in office, I don't think I've said this on air yet to anyone, but he always positioned himself near a camera or near a person of power. And I always thought that was really interesting. And I started seeing Speaker Moore do the same thing. He was like positioning himself near whoever was in the moment. So Speaker Johnson before he was elected, after he was elected. And then when the certification happened, he beelined to JD Vance and made sure to get photos with him. And that was just very interesting to see that dynamic of a former speaker trying to like make a lane for power in the new session.
Yeah, he's just a freshman now, but still has that speaker vibe. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll have more talking with DC correspondent Danielle Battaglia about what's happening in DC, and then our picks for headliner of the week. We'll be right back.
Ninja One understands that IT teams today are stretched thin, trying to manage too many disconnected tools. So they built a platform that brings them all together. Ninja One unifies endpoint management, autonomous patching, backup, and remote access into a single intelligent platform. That means fewer tools, lower costs, higher efficiency, and a team that has the bandwidth and confidence to stay ahead. Unify IT to simplify work with Ninja One. Learn more at ninjaone.com.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with DC correspondent Danielle Battaglia. In the first half of the show, we talked a lot about Congress. Let's talk about another branch of government and incoming for the second time, soon to be president again, Donald Trump, what that means for North Carolina and issues like immigration, which was his big campaign issue. So I'll let it take it away, Danielle, on, I guess, let's start with immigration.
Okay, so President-elect Donald Trump, his inauguration is January 20th. So one of the big questions that we have had as a newsroom is the different policies that he has said he's going to enact. And one of the day one policies has been mass deportation. And so we wanted to look at how that's going to affect North Carolina from the people who've lived there, because there's a lot of immigrants in North Carolina. And then we wanted to look at how it would affect our economy and the people that get left behind and like all these different issues. My part of the project that I don't know why I pitched, but has been very interesting, but a big undertaking is I wanted to look at the timeline of what has happened in our country on immigration going back to the early days. So like as early as 1790, we were creating immigration laws on who could be a citizen of the United States. And at that point, it was you had to be white, Western European, have good moral character, and have lived in the country for 2 years. And that would change from like 5 to 14 years and go back to 5 years. And I've been looking at all these different policies. And what stood out to me is like, really Republicans, like Reagan specifically, was so for immigration and granted asylum to 3 million people, which is not something you hear Republicans tout too often. And then you hear Obama, he is known as the deporter in chief because he deported so many people from the United States. And so I find like, as I'm looking at this, just your idea of where Democrats and Republicans stand doesn't really always fit the narrative of what actually happened factually in our country. And so I've been really fascinated just by like different changes to immigration laws and why things changed. Like when my family came here, we had to know English. But like that law disappeared in either the 60s or 70s. It's in my timeline somewhere. And so like those kind of things that people question of like, why don't we do that now? I'm like learning where these different policies came from and hoping to kind of, open that up so people can fully understand these different issues throughout the decades, centuries. I guess it's centuries.
How soon do you think, it's right now, it's a lot of talk. How soon do you think after he's in office that there'll actually be changes impact in North Carolina as far as immigration goes?
I think that's a guess for everyone to make right now. He was making big sweeping, like saying, I'm going to make these big sweeping changes in his first administration. And those really didn't come very much to fruition like he said they were. I talked to an expert yesterday who said, if you look at it, the people that were around him weren't very good at basically his administration got in its own way and they couldn't do what they wanted to do because they just weren't competent enough. His words, not mine. And so
a lot of people's words.
Yeah. So now looking forward, that same expert tells me that he actually thinks that this is something that he could implement and get done with the people that he is surrounding himself with now, whether that is day one or not. I'm hearing different people say different things, from how much it would cost to do mass deportation to like the effect of the economy and whether that would stop him from fulfilling what he wants to do. And so I think, if he says what he says he wants to do, day one, we're going to see it happen or see something happen. But realistically, I don't know that he can pull that off. So we'll see. I think it's anyone's guessing game.
Anything else you think that would be like what we'd be looking at, sooner than later, as far as any policies or changes or really shift in anything like that affects North Carolina or everyone? I'm asking you to crystal ball here.
I know you're asking me to crystal ball, and my brain's been in immigration all day, so I'm trying to think of all the other things we have discussed.
Well, this Senate leader in the state, Berger always says, he always quips that his crystal ball is cracked. So
Yeah, I mean, that's a good knowledge. My first question is, are we going to have White House briefings, and can I get in the room still? So that's my day one question.
it's true though. The behind the scenes that people like don't always know about, like reporters in our jobs, is we think about logistics a lot.
Yeah. I know you had problems with that this week.
So yeah, logistical issues with seating and space and everything. I spent the day in the House, and we actually ended up having plenty of seats. And our team colleague Luciana Perez-Rivas was in the Senate for all that getting rolling. So we need to scoot on to our picks for headliner of the week. Danielle, you go first.
So I feel like I should be more somber about this than I'm going to be. But if you watched the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter, which is very sad, and I do want you all to know that I do have the reverence I should for this moment. If you watch that opening video of all the presidents and vice presidents coming in, there was just so much to study in it, like so much to study in it. I want a body language analysis of the entire thing. But the thing that just struck me was like, there's a lot of tension between like Mike Pence's wife and Donald Trump, and people not shaking Donald Trump's hand, and different things happening. But you get former President Bush, my lovely Bush. He comes in, he's like, pow, and like punches Obama in the stomach to say hello. And then he shakes Vice President Pence's hand and Vice President Al Gore's hand. And then he gets to Dan Quayle and boops him on the head with his funeral pamphlet. And it just like cut the tension in the room, even though there was some weird tension there anyways. And it made me laugh. And it was just such a Bush-ism.
It's a political move too, and it's some of your own personality, because now former Speaker Moore, I noticed, was it's a kind of a similar vibe where you're like, hey,
back.
when you come in at stuff. I'll have my one like Carter. So I was in preschool when Carter's president, and I watched Wonder Woman at the time, like all little girls back then. And Wonder Woman was played by Linda Carter. And so, I was living in the DC area. I guess this is kindergarten, and wrote a letter to get a photo of the president and the family. And it turns out that Linda Carter was not the first lady. So that was Rosalind Carter. It's a nice group photo. And don't worry, people who think that's partisan, or my parents are partisan. They were both parties, voted for both parties. And I also sent a letter to President Reagan as a little kid. So that's just, a DC area.
DC kid thing.
Yeah. So my headliner actually is like relevant to DC and here is the weather. I know that y'all have had like multiple rounds of snow and ice, but we haven't, as of Friday at 2:39, had anything. And maybe there'll be a little bit of snow. Hopefully not just stinky old freezing rain and ice, which is not great for anyone. It just means power out and danger. And yeah, I would prefer like nice fluffy snowflakes for pictures and kids and pets playing in. And we haven't had snow in Raleigh for a couple of years. And even that snow we had a couple of years ago was kind of meh. So, if we don't get it this weekend, or of course everyone will know by the time you're listening to this on Monday, then maybe we'll get another round of fun snow. So that's my headliner. Also, the snow messed with Governor Stein's inauguration, and then it messed with Cooper's first one too. So there hasn't been. I think McCrory was the last time there was an actual like big inauguration shindig downtown.
We're not doing good with that on the Democratic side.
It is January, so there's that factor too.
I don't think it will stop Trump's inauguration.
Well, there was some sort of like fun fact I learned, and like I don't know, where they used to have the actual inauguration in March. because of the weather, and it took everyone so long to come to DC for it.
Oh.
Yeah, you put that on your next timeline story.
Thank you.
All right, we are out of time. I'm Dawn Vaughan. For Danielle Battaglia, producer Laura Brache, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.